Bitcoin and the rest of crypto in for an extremely turbulent week. We're going to talk about targets on Bitcoin that could actually come into play because of this turbulence. And we're also going to look at ADA. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to look at ADA on these charts. There's the move that we've lived through and kind of persevered through. I want to discuss why there's some good news for Cardano on these charts. So let's dive into the video. Please hit the subscribe and let's just do this. First things I want to do, I want to go to Bitcoin on the weekly, and just the weekly candle hasn't closed yet, but it's about to close as I record this video in 16 minutes. The most notable thing here is the very fact that Bitcoin is closing below the 20-week moving average, and it likely will. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 60 minutes, but that green line right around $26,000 or so, just above $26,000. And the reason why I think that's very important as we watch these cycles play out is just Bitcoin right now is very comparable to the move out of the 2018 bear market. I talk about it a lot. When we started going into this downtrend, this retracement, Bitcoin was breaking below the 20-week moving average. So I think that's something just to keep an eye on for Bitcoin. One thing that I will point out is the 50-week moving average right here around $22,400. When Bitcoin was breaking through the 20-week moving average back here, a little bit more space there to fall to that 50-week moving average support. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. Now, there is a lot going on this week, everybody. We have the XRP, the Ripple case, and the Hinman emails kind of being released. We have CPI data coming out as well. We have the Fed interest rate decision this week, amongst other things that are going on right now in the crypto space. So this is off the back of last week, which was extremely volatile. So when we start digging into these charts, there's a lot that I'm watching for. The first thing on the daily, before we really dig into shorter term targets, and this plays into shorter term targets, on this daily chart, you have this rising wedge that just has been in play for quite a long time now. Had this kind of fake breakout to the upside, falling back into the wedge. We're at the apex of the wedge. Breakout target to the upside around 40,000. Breakout target to the downside, it's around $18,000 or so. So whether or not it gets there, that time will tell. But the thing I'm watching in this volatile week is the very fact that we're testing this lower trend line right now. So what we're about to look at on the 6-hour chart in terms of patterns and a target for Bitcoin actually plays into Bitcoin maybe failing on the shorter term. If the first half of this week, for instance, maybe there's some fear in the air, there's a lot of volatility, crypto's falling, maybe even stock market's falling. Let's just say something like that is happening, and then we'll look at upside. But if Bitcoin starts breaking down, an area of interest is the 200-day moving average. It's right around $23,500 to the downside. And what's notable about that is on this chart, this is 6-hour. We've been tracking this before even the last week happened, all the volatility. We saw Bitcoin, and this was all the way back on May 10th, around a month ago, break below this triangle and kind of just, it didn't hit its target very quickly, and it still hasn't, that target around 24,000. You can just see it trickled sideways along the lower trend line, almost popped into the apex, failed, fall. And it's just kind of like, well, if we get this case on the Bitcoin daily and Bitcoin actually breaks this lower trend line, falls towards the 200-day moving average at 23,500, the target here is $24,000. So the case for Bitcoin to maybe fall to that 200 moving average and actually hit that target in the process and maybe wick back up is pretty strong to the downside. And then we're going to talk about upside in a second, but the reason why that move could be something to watch for is not only just it happening and testing 200-day moving average support, but if it did happen and hit the target simultaneously, do we get this move back to the upside where we're once again testing a lower trend line, trying to pull back in, right? So we had the fake breakout to the upside. Are we going to have a fake breakout to the downside without hitting the target to the downside? And then we're going to go back into this apex. So kind of like just another higher low. So we had the swing low back here, bear market low, higher low. Are we going to get a higher low down here around the 200-day moving average and a nice bullish move back to the apex and kind of this entire rising wedge back in play? That's what I'll be watching this week. What happens at this lower trend line? Now to the upside, if markets just go bullish, we'll be talking about a different type of targets. The target to the upside, the main target would be the upper trend line. It's around $28,600, but just notice what's on the way to that upper trend line. There's two really important areas of interest. It's the 20-day moving average around 26,800 and the 50-day moving average around 27,500. So you notice all of these areas that I'm talking about, they're very close to each other. And that's simply because we're in the apex of this rising wedge, right? So we're in the apex. So the move for Bitcoin to just, for instance, test the green line, the 20-day moving average, not that great. I mean, and that's not the right tool. Price range wise, we're looking at right around not even 3.5%. The 50-day moving average, right around 5.5%. And that upper trend line is just a 10% move for Bitcoin. If there's a bullish move this week for Bitcoin, and the question is, this is why it's a target, what happens at that area? Just similar to how we're talking about what's going to happen this week at this area, the lower trend line. Are we going to get that break to the downside? If Bitcoin makes its way back above these moving averages and this upper trend line, does Bitcoin have the strength to break above for just this kind of bullish sentiment on the chart, pulling into play the $40,000 target? That's what I'll be watching this week amidst all this volatility. Going over to Cardano, we break down Cardano. I'm going to start with the good news just right off the bat, and then we're going to dig into the shorter term and kind of dissect what's going on this chart. So ADA, we all know what happened this week with the SEC, or this past week with the SEC, and it really brought into play some fear. It's not the first time Cardano has had a fear event. It's not the first time crypto has had a fear event. Interestingly enough, if you just look at the event itself, this candle is so similar to two other candles on this chart. Number one would be the COVID candle back in March 2020. And also number two would be this bear market low, the last bear market move in 2018 for ADA. The other thing is very kind of reflective is if you look at the bottom of my screen, I don't know if you can see it. Let me move it over. You see this bottom of my screen, this volume amidst that fear, just a very similar picture, what we saw back here in the COVID swing low. And then also you can see that, well, the volume not as great in the bear market low, but you can just see kind of the similarities across all three spectrums. Now, here's the good news, everybody. The good news is this. If you open up the momentum oscillator, we just kind of did a reflection of those two previous times. That's important for context. But if we open up the momentum oscillator, you see where ADA has fallen to now is right around 36. Well, the COVID swing low, right before it fell, you can just see it was right around 42 or so. And that huge fall was right around to 36 on this RSI. This was a insanely high fear event for ADA, falling right to around a similar area in a very high fear event that ADA just fell to. And then if we look all the way back here at the bear market low of 2018, that other similar area, we're looking at around 34, 35 on the RSI. So very similar area as well. So ADA, my point is this, ADA is in a very high fear environment on the momentum oscillator, historically speaking. You can see the only other time it's gotten so bad was simply in the bear market, and specifically the bear market low was the most oversold ADA has been on that RSI. And so the purpose of me telling you that, and the reason I think that's good news, is just because, like with everything else, when we hit these oversold, high fear environments, for me, and there's no guarantees, this is just how I see the charts, and this is just information that I process myself that helps me make my own decisions. But when we get into these environments, yes, it could go lower. And I'm going to actually show you the case for that in a minute. But when we get into these environments, it really does signal that the bottom is pretty close. And that's just historically speaking. That's not an opinion. But when we've been here before, like I just showed you, the bottom was pretty close. And what happened after those previous two times? Well, the bear market low of 2018, ADA pumped out of that 300%. And out of the COVID swing low, ADA pumped out of that 16,000%. So that's not for me to tell you that that's going to happen again. But when I have data like that on the screen, that just says something to me. And I take that data and I make my own decisions. And so this isn't me trying to sell you on opportunity here, but I'm very much documenting the way that I see these charts, and I'm very much documenting my crypto journey here. And that's part of it, because this is why I do the charts. So I'm taking note of that. Now, what does that actually mean for me in shorter term targets and in relation to that? I want to try and talk about that a little bit. Here's ADA on the daily charts. Now, ADA on the daily, same type of deal. You open up an RSI. Look at this. This is the most oversold on the RSI that it's ever been, right? And we just, well, close to the most oversold. If we go back here to the, once again, the COVID swing low, as well as the bear market low, Not quite there, but it is almost there. So extremely oversold, illustrated there on the daily. Oversold on the stock RSI, as you can see. Potential bounce getting ready to happen. Here's the thing, and it really ties into what I was talking about in, I think it was a live stream the other night. We talked about this case for ADA to kind of just come down and just bounce up and then put in one more low. And that's kind of the thing that's very much on my mind. And I can't say this enough. I have no idea if that's going to happen or not. The reason why I could see it happening, it's just something that, from my experience, if I can really recall correctly, it's just something that happens a lot. And I can just give you one quick example, which I mentioned in the live stream the other day. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was just very simple. It's ADA back in the actual low of the bear market before we got this huge capitulation recently. But it was just ADA putting in this higher low on the RSI on this 6-hour chart while price was putting in a lower low, right? So that bullish divergence kind of just formed right there that signaled this turnaround on ADA price. And then we got the bullish move to the upside. So it's kind of like, well, we could be in a similar type of scenario where ADA just made a big fall, as it did in this 2022, December 2022 move. People are hoping that's it and that's over. No lower, kind of consolidates, and then there's one more fall, right? And while that's happening, ADA on the RSI putting in actually a higher low. That's a bullish signal. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm very curious going into this week, especially because it's going to be a volatile week. ADA bounced out of the RSI, oversold, up to the upside. Maybe we even have some more upside over the coming hours. But what if this week proves to be difficult for crypto? What if Bitcoin falls? What if crypto falls? What if another exchange gets attacked, right? This really does leave into play another fall for ADA. And I want to talk about kind of a target in that regard. And if that happened, if this RSI can actually put in a higher low, that could be a really bullish signal for a nice pop to the upside off of that low. Now, when it comes to the target, this is what I'm watching. And this is ironic. And I don't know if many of you have noticed, I've been doing technical analysis for Cardano for a very long time. And just not even on purpose, this yellow line, I don't know if I'm pretty sure you should be able to see that yellow line on the screen, but right around 17 cents, I've had it there for the longest time. I pretty much never talk about it. I think I was just messing around on the charts one day, just like this insane, terrible scenario. Never on my videos have I said, I think that would happen, right? But now it's actually like we're 10 cents above that area and it's in play. It does seem sometimes crypto just goes a little bit further to the upside or downside than we were really anticipating. And this is what it is, everybody. We anticipate that the worst can always happen. Crypto could go to zero. Well, now we're in this environment where I'm actually using this yellow line that I really didn't intend to ever use. I think I charted it because it was an interesting area visually, because it's an area where ADA popped off of out of that first bull market dip all the way back here in 2018 and then continued to fall. And it's also that first area of big resistance coming out of the bear market, out of the COVID swing low. You can see right around Shelly time, resistance comes back up and actually resistance again consolidates there. It just seemed like a really interesting area to just track on the charts. I think that's why I did it. But now it's actually an area that I actually, I'm watching. And the reason being, not only because of what I just showed you and why I originally charted it, but, and this isn't me saying I think this is going to happen, but it's silly not to prepare for this. Because if it happened, this could be an area of interest for me personally, for my own reasons. Now, 17 cents, 17 to 20 cents, that's an area that I'm kind of keenly watching right now for ADA in this scenario where we're getting this move, this new swing low, but a higher low on the RSI. That 17 to 20 cent area is what I'm watching. Now, if you also just look at the trend from kind of this area before ADA just put in that last all-time high and just all of these lower lows in the bear market, you can just see very close to that 17 line is that line, right? So when ADA is trying to bottom out, maybe it wicks to that area, and maybe that's at the end of the day, nobody knows, but that could be just single-handedly maybe the end of the decline of ADA, and it bounces out epically out of that area. That would be a good scenario, right? It would be a good scenario if ADA just bounces out now. And in which case I actually want to discuss that. If we go back to the 6-hour chart, if what I drew here does not play out, really what I'd be watching for is ADA just to kind of, yeah, maybe it consolidates a little bit, maybe even kind of retest this area down here, 24, 25 cents. But we're really looking to just completely break this trend of moving averages on the 6-hour as opposed to just running into it and falling, because that's really what we see happen often. And it's exactly what we saw happen in this example that I gave you in the bear market low. You can just see if I open up my chart so we can actually see this better. Just ADA, it fell, but then it just pulled into the moving averages and then fell again. We'd really want to start seeing ADA fall, bring itself into those moving averages, but do what it did out of the actual low and just start putting in higher highs and higher lows above that area. And for ADA, what that means right now for the short term, this first moving average is right around 29 to 30 cents. You go to a daily chart, and the other thing that I just want to point out is all of these moving averages that are really important for ADA to really start turning the macro ship back around, they're right around 35 to 36 cents, 35 to 37 cents. So to give you an idea, ADA still has another 25 to 30% to the upside before breaking that area. I don't think, unless something really bullish happens this week, ADA is just going to do that in a day, right? This could be kind of a journey for ADA, and we're going to have to track these things. But going into a volatile week like this, anything could happen to the upside or to the downside. But in extreme bullish volatility, that's the area I'd be watching for, 35 to 37 cents. That's the area we want to get back above. And then in extreme bearish volatility, 20 to 17 cents. If this move to the downside continues, it's just something that I'm personally prepared for. I'm not sitting here saying I think it's going to happen, but this is bear market territory, right? This is, even if we don't want to call it a bear market anymore, if we're shifting into that next cycle and shifting out of the bear, right? Because this truly was the bear. But if we're coming towards the end, this is just the way crypto is, everybody. It just is what it is. And we have to deal with it. We have to live with it. Even knowing going into bear market, it's going to be like this. I choose to do these videos because I want to track the journey, even no matter how harsh that journey might be sometimes, no matter how big the dips might be, I'm tracking it. So that's what I'm tracking for Bitcoin and Cardano right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stick around, everybody. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a video earlier in the day just discussing what is ahead this week, especially Tuesday. Tuesday is such a big week for crypto. So please turn the notification on. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I really, really do appreciate all of your support out there. Hit the like button right now on your way out and have an awesome start to your week. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.